Now we take a look at the AFCON finalists and the number of titles that they have amongst themselves. These, of course, the semi-finalists. You've got the Pharaohs of Egypt with 7 titles to their name. The Super Eagles of Nigeria, they are looking to fight for their 4th title. The Lions of Teranga, just the 2021 title that they have to their name. And Morocco, they title all the way back in the 1970s when the tournament just had 8 teams competing to be African champions. And of course, those semi-final clashes will be taking place next week, and that action will be brought to you live by the SABC. When we move on in terms of what's happened out at AFCON 2025, all right, let's take a look at the top goal scorers we've got in terms of this Africa Cup of Nations. We'll just try to get that working, but we certainly know that we do have Real Madrid's Brahim Diaz, who's right up top there in terms of that goal scoring. He's scored 5 goals for Morocco at the tournament so far, scoring in each and every single game. We do have a Victor Osimhen as well, who's making the top goal scorer chart. So it will be interesting to see who can make it further in terms of just finding the back of the net as we move on. And of course, we do bring you those semi-final clashes that will be taking place next week, Wednesday, live on SABC2. Let's now bring you through to my guest today, who's joining us to have a discussion in terms of what's been happening at AFCON 2025. And it is the one, the only Linda Figo Mntambo joining us. He is, of course, one of the talents that SABC has brought through for AFCON 2025. Morocco sunrise every single day, 9 a.m. during the week, 8:30 a.m. on weekends. How has that been?
Yo, it's been beautiful. Good morning, V, and good morning to the viewers at home. Morocco sunrise has been like a breath of fresh air. We're waking up with Abantu, South Africa, bringing them. We are just their ears and eyes with everything that's happening at the AFCON 2025 in Morocco. So if they want to know, the latest news, breaking news, fashion trends that are there, the food that has been consumed, so just everything about Morocco sunrise, we bring it to the people.
We're absolutely enjoying the transition, seeing you move from being Sekhukhune United captain, fantastic, to being a presenter. But talk to me about when you look at AFCON 2025, overall, what have you made of the tournament, the quality of football on the field of play? What have you made as well of the officiating at this tournament?
Okay, in terms of the officiating, because of the VAR moments that we had. But in terms of the football, I think we've been experiencing like beautiful football. I think the standard of football has gone up. But I've said it because I saw an interview about Dr. Petrus Motsepe saying that this is going to be the best AFCON. And many former legends have been saying that this is by far the best tournament. But I think it's a balance of the football has long been there. It's just now the standard, the facilities that are matching now the football. Because if you look at the past AFCONs, brown, and now Motuapega with the rain in Morocco, how the drainage systems of the playing fields are. It means, standard silapa, high up. So we're actually sending a high and a great statement to the world that as Africa, like we are ready. I think back it was 2010 when we hosted South Africa, but now looking at Morocco going to co-host the 2030 World Cup alongside Spain, Portugal. Yeah. So there, I think it's just exciting times for Africa.
It is exciting times for Africa indeed. We look at the semi-finals and where we are at the moment. I want to touch on, you look at the 4 semi-finalists.
Yeah.
When you look at those 4 teams, as Linda, coming into AFCON 2025, I know I had you on Waza AFCON for SABC, and is this the top 4 that you were expecting just coming into this tournament? No. What has been your surprise?
Look, would have loved for Bafana to be in the top 8. Looking at how we performed in the last edition, where we got bronze. But in terms of CAF rankings, when you look at the quarterfinals, the nations that were there, those guys are ranked from number 1 to number 8, were the guys that were in the quarterfinals. So it was, a round of 16 was small boys being separated from men. And now the teams that have made it to the semi-finals, these are nations that are giants in Africa. Senegal have won it in 2021, were finalists in 2019. Egypt 7 times champions.
Morocco.
They last won it
Morocco's
49
probably the
years.
one that needs to prove a point here, because we've spoken of this Moroccan team being a team that's made of superstars, having those facilities in Morocco, being a team that a lot aspire to be like, but really have nothing to show for it in terms of that continental silverware since when the tournament had 8 teams. So if any team has something to prove, I think it would be this Morocco led by a coach lead.
Yeah, Morocco have been on the ascend in terms of just junior ranks, their teams, and how they've been doing. If Mopega, the past World Cup, they were there in the semi-finals. And Motupera, they under 20, they won the World Cup. Under 17 are there. Now they're going to be hosting the AFCON. So it's something that they've been building for years. It's not something that they built yesterday. It has been a lot of work so that they've been building. And now that they are in the semis, I think it's always nice for the home nation, to go as far as possible in the tournament. Because you can imagine, if they go out, will the fans still go to the stadiums to watch the football? So there won't be vibes. You know? So having them, I don't see them winning though.
You don't?
No, I don't. I think Nigeria are going to beat them and go to the final. I think Nigeria have been just on the rise. I think they've peaked at the right time. They're free scoring. They've scored the most goals in this tournament. For me, I'm in Nigeria because the only thing that they have in front of them is this AFCON. They're not going to the World Cup. Unlike the other nations who, at the back of their minds, playing this AFCON, but also saying to the coaches, Coach, I still need you to pick me for the World Cup squad. So within Nigeria, I think they're giving it everything they've got to make sure that they win this AFCON.
Maybe let's go a little bit deeper in terms of Nigeria, because you've touched on the fact that they are free scoring. They've had the best conversion rate in front of goals. We've seen them find the back of the net. We saw them yesterday again convincing in front of goal against Algeria. How important was it for them to put aside everything else off the field that was happening coming into this tournament? Because there was a lot of talk around Nigeria. It was first not qualifying for the World Cup. We then moved into the players are saying they're not going to train at AFCON, coming into the quarterfinal clash because they haven't been paid, they win bonuses. It was the tensions in the team when you have a Victor Osimhen, Adeola Lookman, looking like there's a bit of tension. Pass me the ball, it's a team sport. Just being able to put that aside to do the work on the field of play, do you feel that Nigeria has now moved past that and they now have their game faces on in terms of wanting to make this final and lift that 4th title?
I think in terms of problems off the field, you cannot run away from that. But top, best athletes all round, know what to do when they get onto that field. If there's one thing about football, I tell you, V, irrespective of what's going on in your life, abantabaz, when you get onto that field, uwe nesibongo sako akho and the team that you play for. So I think the Nigerian players are able to put aside all the problems that they deal with, off the field, and make sure that they play for the nation. They play for the surnames on the back of their shirts and the badge, in front of their shirts. So with Osimhen, Hamba from the AFCON, there's problems with bonuses, this and that, him and Didi, the captain of the Nigerian team. But looking at how he's performing, you look at the goal they scored yesterday, that was a beautiful team goal. I think not taking away from the goal scored by El Kabi of Morocco, I think this would go on to be goal of the tournament. That was a beautiful work goal, from build-up to the consolidation phase, up front to Osimhen, who then lays the ball off to one of his players, dribble past the goalkeeper, and just a simple finish into the net. That should tell you that this team is now playing with confidence, and Angboni Morocco can, stand in their way. I've actually adopted, on Morocco Sunrise, we've all adopted teams from AFCON since Ibafana exited. And the rivalry between Ibafana and Nigeria has always been there. But Mina, like I said it, in terms of football and the quality that that team has, I've adopted in Nigeria. And I'm seeing them go all the way, to win it.
All right, so let's break down those semi-final clashes then for our viewers at home. Of course, it will be the Lions of Teranga in that first semi-final clash that will take on the Pharaohs of Egypt. Give me your thoughts in terms of that one, because we've got 2 teams that have been solid. Maybe some say Senegal not as convincing in their quarter-final clash against the Mali side, but when you see them coming up against Egypt, who are able to grind out the result. Tell me what your thoughts are on that one.
Yeah, I see Senegal as favourites to go through to the finals. Again, it's because of the makeup of their squad. Mautupega, that Senegal team, all of the squad members at the AFCON weren't born in Senegal. Some of them, 13 weren't born in Senegal. but all of them ply their trade outside of Senegal. So these guys have European experience, but again, they are playing against Ofaro. Ofaro, I think they are aggressive. You know, they are a team that thrives off even tackles. So they're a team that is ready to suffer when they have to, you know.
And they can grind out the results without dominating those stats.
Yeah, they certainly. And I think that's going to be a tough one. So the two semi-finals, it's North Africa versus West Africa. You know, we're going to see Senegal versus Egypt. On the other side, in Nigeria versus Morocco. So it's who wins it. I think all four teams that are there, all four teams that are there, you know, are equally fit to get into the final.
All right, so it's very interesting. Then tell me who is in your final. Give me your two final teams.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a West African final. I'm seeing Senegal versus Nigeria. It's going to be a tough one. I think it's a game that's going to go to extra time. But in Nigeria with Stanley Nwabali. You know, again, I'm also supporting Nigeria because not only is Stanley representing Nigeria, but he's also representing the Betway Premiership, you know, where you know, it is our bread and butter. We play alongside him. People are saying that Stanley is not conceding because he's had his second clean sheet in a row.
Yeah.
But like how we are good to Siampula, but we are happy that he's representing, you know, the standard of what we have in the Betway Premiership. So I mean, I'm rooting for Nigeria all the way.
All right, Mntambo, the captain of Sekhukhune United, saying he thinks it's going to be a West African final. It will be the Lions of Teranga taking on the Super Eagles of Nigeria. But of course, we know Nigeria come up against a Moroccan side that has not conceded a goal in open play.